Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I'm joined here by Jake Circus with the Jake Circus podcast, and this is the Wild Card Playoff edition of Jungle Talk. Yeah,
Hooray.
who day? Yeah. So playoffs. Yeah, no, that's we're in the playoffs. This is it. So um, cover a couple pieces of news, not a lot. And then we'll cover, what we feel good about, don't feel good about, and then our predictions. But this is it. Sunday night game too. That's actually I thought that was a decent slot. I wasn't unhappy. I didn't want to play Saturday because we had the short week and then the crazy week and then so short week with the canceled game. So I didn't want Saturday. That was my big thing. So
Yeah, that's fair. I was surprised that they gave us Sunday night. I mean, this is not a marquee matchup by any
no.
stretch, especially with the quarterback situation. And we saw what happened in this game on Sunday, and it was never really a contest until the kind of end when the Bengals offense went really kind of frozen. But other than that, this isn't really like a marquee matchup that really deserves Sunday night. So I was kind of surprised, but I'm interested to see them with a night playoff game because they got robbed of a primetime slot.
Yeah,
I guess not robbed, but circumstances happened and
right.
um yeah.
Well, they got, you know what? Circumstances robbed them. It wasn't, we're not saying the Bills did on purpose, but all right. Tell them where they can, before we forget, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. And then, Jake, tell them where they can find your podcast and turn your mic up a little.
Yep, podcast on Spotify, Jake Circus podcast episodes every week. It'll dial down I guess once football season's over, but we'll still be doing weekly episodes. Some good playoff coverage coming in the next couple of weeks. Episode tomorrow, episode Monday. Follow me on Twitter at Jake Circus. That's Sirkus, spelled pretty funky, but you'll find all my Bengal stuff, all my football coverage, betting stuff on my Twitter.
You can always I pin the episodes to my Twitter feed and I link Jake in. So you can always click Jake's link is right there at the top of my Twitter feed also if you need to find it. So if you'll notice there's a little different on the background here. One of the things about getting divorced when you get the house is you get to take some of the things out of your office and put them actually out in the house. So my football helmet and the playoff the championship poster that was behind me is now out in the family room where it should be prominently displayed. So we moved some stuff around. You got Chad back there and AJ. So all good. I want to remind everybody that the new overtime rule is in effect. So there won't be, if you score a touchdown on the first possession of OT, that's not the end of the game. So the other team will get the possession. This is all because of the Bills Chiefs game a couple of years, last season where, the Chiefs scored and that was it. And the Bills never touched the ball again. So
I did not remember that. I completely forgot that they changed that
yeah,
in March.
Mike Florio did on his PFT this morning. I'm going through the blog and he reminded everybody that the new overtime rules are in effect. I was like, oh yeah. So if the other team can come in, if they score a touchdown, then it would be sudden death after each team had scored a touchdown. And obviously the team that's scoring the second touchdown could go for two and try to end it right there. It's up to them, but they will not score on an opening drive touchdown this season. So we will not have the repeat of Josh Allen not getting the ball in overtime.
So
So
this is a fun one. We can go on a little tangent here. I'm reading it right now. If there is still no winner at the end of a fourth overtime period, there will be another coin toss, and then play will continue until a winner is declared.
4 overtimes. All right. I only remember we did the double overtime with the Chargers Miami back in the day. That was the Dan Fouts amazing game. We ended up winning the Ice Bowl was the following week. That's how we got the Chargers in the Ice Bowl was because of
I
that double overtime game. But
I think that our hearts and our minds only have enough in the tank for maybe one overtime.
yeah, no,
Consider
I could not. I was my hair. I have loose hair and I have gray hair and a lot of gray hair, and it's from the Bengals. If
and
there's any doubt,
if
you want to see what the Bengals do, this is what they do. They make you gray. Okay, so
And if the Bengals go to double overtime with Anthony Brown, we've got some other
Oh,
problems.
we have big issues, so we better not. But I'm just pointing it out because we do have, if we both win, and chances are we're both heavy favorites, the Bills and Bengals will win. They will be playing each other next week, and that will be we will finally get a Bills Bengals game. Unfortunately, where will be no coin flip, and there will be no, it won't be in Cincinnati. So that's the downside. So, by the way, I haven't heard if Mixon officially got fined for the coin flip celebration, which Chad Johnson graciously said he encouraged it, but then he stepped up as Chad always does, and said he would pick up the fine if Joe Mixon was fined. But if there's a fine for that, there should be a fine for that chest compression CPR, that was completely inappropriate celebration by the Steelers. Doing, mimicking the CPR, not funny, not even, I don't know what point you thought that was okay. So if Mixon is fine, and I know he used a prop and all that with the coin, but if he's fine, then you should be fining the Steelers for that one. But that's just my feelings there. And the last one, I didn't know this. Dan Horde tweeted this out, and it's gotten some steam. A lot of people spread around. Trey Hendrickson has never not been a division champ.
Wow.
He has won all four. He won every time in New Orleans and every time with us. He has never, second season with us. So 4-2, 6 seasons. He's been a division champ every year.
Yeah, I mean, they won. So he was he was in that really good Saints draft class in 2017. So I think, they didn't lose it. They won it like 3 or 4 straight years. And that must have started when he was a rookie. So that's damn. I mean, I think he's going on year 6 now. This is year 6.
Yeah. And it's 2 years with us.
Impressive.
Yeah. So he's never not won a division. So I didn't realize that. So, what do you think before we get into this? What do you think of the lines this week? You like the 6.5?
6.5. That number is no longer.
Oh, wait. That was what I got. I actually got the 6.5, and I bought it down. I bought it down to 2.5. So
it opened at 6.5. It stayed at 6.5 for a while, waiting on the quarterback news. And then when it became clear that Lamar was probably not going to play, it got the bump to 7.5. And now it's all the way up to 8.5. I've seen some 10s.
Right.
And we can go right into the injury news. It doesn't seem like Tyler Huntley is going to play in this game either. Like it very well might be Anthony Brown.
Yeah, it's and we got to preview what we got last week. Obviously, it was generic play calling on both sides, but I don't know how much more in a skill set. I mean, he's been with the team a couple weeks. I mean, this isn't.
So I did this exercise with a good buddy of mine who we do these rabbit holes all the time. We came to the conclusion that Anthony Brown would probably be the worst starting playoff quarterback in our lifetime. And we're both 20. He's 21. But yeah, in the last 20 years, Anthony Brown would probably be far and away when you mix. It's his second year. He wasn't first year, actually. He was a rookie. He played at Oregon last year. He beat Ohio State at Oregon last year. First year, undrafted, didn't get any snaps in the regular season. And he's awful. Like when you mix all those things, he's the worst playoff quarter. He would be the worst playoff quarterback, at least in the last 20 years.
Yeah. So you jumped in with the good, but looking at the injury report, I mean, we have Kappa, which we know, and Zach Taylor ruled him out yesterday. So we're not seeing Kappa. Higgins was out due to an illness, not due to an injury out of practice. And obviously Cam Taylor-Britt had his groin. He was limited in practice yesterday. We're recording early because I have a crazy work schedule today, but so we don't have Thursday's injury news, but that was it. I mean, Kappa was the big injury from last week. And so my only concerns, I only have 2. The Ravens defense concerns me. Roquan Smith got his big deal, which also tells me Lamar's money is going away. I mean, that leaves the franchise tag available to the Ravens because they signed Roquan Smith, but that doesn't mean that he's going to get the big deal because Roquan Smith just got $100 million, and you can only write so many 9-figure contracts. So,
well, I don't. So I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. I mean, I think there's not like a pool of, oh, here's Lamar's money, we're gonna take some of it out and pay Roquan.
No,
They well and know that Lamar Jackson is an impending free agent, and they probably are going to try to re-sign him. But the point is that Roquan has been a huge piece to this defense since he got here,
yeah,
and has really charged the turnaround for them to still be a playoff team without Lamar. So they made that decision. I think it's an overpay because he's an off-ball linebacker. Like, we're not playing Madden here. But they really like him. That's a lot of money for an off-ball linebacker, but there is still a pool where they can heavily go after Lamar. But on the flip side of things, it seems like Lamar's quit on them, and he might not even negotiate because he's going to have 31 other teams, kind of, the whole league bidding on him. Some teams who desperately need him, a lot more than Baltimore seems to, or who will make him feel wanted a lot more than Baltimore has.
right.
Because it really seemed like this is these two have the two sides have burned their bridges, and now this is becoming all business and not even acknowledging that they're playing in a playoff game in 3 days.
Yeah. Think about it. Derek Carr's gone after making the playoffs last year, and now Lamar is probably gone, even though he's taken numerous times to the playoffs. So, it's great. But there's only so much guaranteed money you can do. And I know Lamar was looking for a Deshaun Watson type contract. And so there's only the pile of money is only so big. So, but that concerns me. Their defense does concern me. And the fact in going back and looking at the shortcuts, there were some really nasty hits in that game. I mean, I remember seeing them and just thinking, hey, it's a hard fought game. But that one on T. Higgins was completely uncalled for. I'm surprised that the league didn't come down with some kind of a fine on that. But that concerns me that they're going to try to take some real cheap shots because it's the only chance they have is to knock some of our guys out. I think that's their best offense is going to be to try to hurt some of our guys. So
on the defensive side of things, this was the Bengals' worst game offensively since the Cleveland game in Week 8, and then the first Ravens game, which was really bad on offense for Joe Burrow and co. They couldn't run the ball, which is probably going to be an issue because that's kind of how they've beaten cover 2 is they've run from the shotgun. And that's kind of how they've gotten these one-on-one looks on the outside all year. The Ravens don't really allow that, but the Ravens do like to play a lot of single high outside man-to-man coverage. So they'll see that, and that's kind of how Joe Burrow has beaten the Ravens in the past. But if the run game is not there, that's really fitting into exactly what the Ravens defense wants to do. When you add all the talent on that side, they have multiple pass rushers that go 4 or 5 deep on the line. That's concerning because we've seen the Bengals go up against good defenses, but with some flaws, with some holes. Ravens defense isn't like that. They do exactly what you need to do to be able to stop the Bengals.
Yeah. Well, we need to turn this into try to light this up a little bit. We don't want to get into the down and dirty, ugly AFC North type game because that's exactly what the Ravens want.
Right.
Keep it close, and maybe you get a shot at the end. Get the pass interference call, trot out Justin Tucker. I mean, they want to keep this close. We need to jump out early. And I'm really, really hoping that we held back enough. Last week, I said we didn't put anything out there that wasn't already out there on film. We didn't run anything exotic. We kept it. It was almost like watching a preseason game. It's not quite as bad as a preseason game, but you were watching a very vanilla offense, not a lot of stunts, not a lot of adjustments. And once again, and nothing that you hadn't already put out there on tape for other teams to see. So that was last week. So I know we held back stuff. Callahan inferred it during the week when he was asked, that they didn't open up everything. They knew there was a good chance that this was a team they were playing and they weren't going to show their hand. So, it's a rematch of, I remember in the 80s, I think it was, this was one of the boomer teams. I remember we played Seattle at the end of the year and then played Seattle first round of the playoffs. And then obviously the Jets, but you went and ran ones that for teams that rematch right away. What did you find out? I don't think you went back to the 80s, but what did you find out with the ones you did?
My database only goes back to the turn of the century. So since 2000, it's happened 5 times. This now being the sixth. Funny enough, it happened 3 times in 2009, which is ridiculous. But it started 2020 Browns Steelers. The Browns defeated Pittsburgh at home in the last week of the year against Mason Rudolph, and then they went on the road and they won the next week. So they won 2 in a row.
Right.
2012 Vikings Packers. The Vikings needed a win in week 17 to clinch the playoffs. Packers had already clinched. The Vikings squeaked one out. Christian Ponder got hurt, and then the Packers hosted and thumped the Vikings the next week against Joe Webb, who might even be worse than Anthony Brown. And then in 2009, it happened 3 times, which is super unlikely because that was back when the last week of the year wasn't against divisional opponents.
Right.
So it happened twice with non-division opponents, Bengals Jets being one of them. That was the end of the Carson Palmer era. Jets needed a week 17 win. They got it. They beat us 37-0 and then hosted and beat us the next week.
Right. I remember that. I was pissed.
Cowboys Eagles 2009. This was actually a fun one because the week 17 game was for the division, kind of like the Bengals Ravens game from this past week, because if the Ravens had won, that would have given them a 50-50 chance to host the playoff game. Not really for the division, but there's a little resemblance there. Cowboys won in week 17, won the division, and then hosted and beat the Eagles the next week. So they won 2 in a row, just like the Browns did in 2020. And then Cardinals Packers in 2009. Also non-division game, just so random and strange. In the week 17 matchup, it meant nothing for Arizona. Kurt Warner didn't play. Packers beat them 33-7. And then the next week, we all remember the Rodgers Hail Mary game.
That was an epic game.
The game he actually lost. Cardinals took that one at home, so they split. So it's about half and half. Out of the 5 times, twice the same team won both times. The other 3 times they split. But it's a little messed up because sometimes quarterback doesn't play because the team doesn't need the win.
Right.
We kind of saw that with the Ravens benching Andrews, some defensive players. But mostly everybody played in the game last week. So there's not really a comparison because of the circumstances that happened. But that's just, we've seen it 5 times in the last 13 or I guess 22 years. 3 of them happened in the same year. It was really strange.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the 6th time it's happened since 2000. So it's a pretty rare occurrence. And the Bengals need to win 2 weeks in a row against a tough team.
Yeah, this is for those of you who didn't know, they changed the way they did the schedule, not the teams they selected. They still do, one interconference, one, you have your divisional games, your interconference game, your game against another conference, and then your fill-in games from the playoff teams. That's when they talk about a first place schedule, last place schedule, but they started doing the order of the games and stacking the front end and the back end with divisional games. So you end the season fighting for the division and you have those games later on to make up when you're looking at stuff. And that was something that they openly, do you know when they actually did that? I thought it was like the mid 2000s or something.
I don't remember when they did that, but they did recently change that the last week of the year would be divisional games only.
That's why you see us opening with Baltimore, opening with Pittsburgh every year, and you see us closing with one of those division games.
Well, it's not.
That's how they do the schedule. So
the rule, that's not a week 1 rule. It's only
no, it's not. But
it's more likely that you'll face off against a division team in week 1 than in the last 15 years.
Yeah. So that's actually really interesting. Comparing it to some of the other ones, the only ones that would be relevant would be ones where guys rested their quarterback and brought their actual quarterback in, and that's not the case here. I mean, they're probably going to go with the same, and I'll argue with you. Webb had more playing time and experience at starts than Brown. So I would say Webb was a better playoff quarterback.
You're right. In his career, he did, but Joe Webb actually did not take a single snap that year.
Oh, okay. So maybe it is. All right.
But he wasn't an undrafted rookie that year. So you're right there.
So
you are correct.
This is to me, this is unprecedented to actually go in starting and you don't even have your backup plan.
Yeah.
So
and funny enough, Joe Webb was a kick returner in college and transferred into a kick returner later on in his NFL career to extend that. And he started an NFL playoff game against Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
and only lost by 2 touchdowns. There's a couple of games this week that we expect to be 2 scores. So
I wish we had
Joe Webb only lost by 2 scores.
I wish we had the stats, and I know they don't have it. What the line was on that game? If Joe
Oh, I can
Webb,
find it.
having never started a game, is that
No, I have it.
available?
I have it right
Is
here.
that
It
so? I'm
was
wondering if he covered, if like they gave up. No, because they were saying 13. They were saying that the 13 points the Bills are giving up is the biggest spread, opening day spread for a wild card game.
so that line was 10, so they did not cover. Packers
Yeah,
covered.
so
That line
that's
was 10.
because they said that this year they said the 13 for Miami now is the largest spread in a wild card weekend to
Yep, I'll
start.
check out.
So
Yeah, no, this is a really cool database that I have. It gives
that
me
is cool.
historical lines. I can pretty
Love
much
it.
search anything. So
I
yeah.
love it. So you got to tune in to Jake's game. He does a show on gambling, and they specifically, when we started doing the show together, we brought in this more gambling element because you and I are both gamblers. So by the way, I want to say I did get paid on my over 10 bet
Yeah,
with
there
my
you go.
bookie. The thing is that Vegas paid it, so I kind of leaned on him, and it's kind of hard to not. I know Vegas did it for PR reasons. It just looks bad, to
I
have a team win 12 games, the over unders 10, and you don't pay because of a
Right.
technicality. This wasn't like we had a 9/11 event and the entire weeks, we lost weeks of a season for everybody. This was one specific event, one specific game, and you'd be picking on the people who just had those bets in that game.
Right.
So
Yeah, they make sure that they say we'll pay all graded wagers, which basically means if the bet like won already, like if the season can just end, if the world ended but the bet still would have won,
right.
then we'll pay you out. So that's what graded means. So when they say like Tyler Boyd first touchdown, that was already graded. I don't know if they paid that out because they actually ended up canceling the game. So I don't know if they paid those out for sure.
Right.
It would make sense to do either way, but for like a Bengals future, like a season long bet that had already won, yeah, you have to pay that. No
Yeah.
question.
No, so so I did, because that was a big concern of mine. I was very that I felt really like stealing. When you place when you're at 11 wins, 3 weeks ago, you're going for win 12 against the Bills, and we didn't get it. But I thought, but we were already there. That would have been one of those. So I did get paid. But we bring in this gambling element because you and I are both gamblers. So on the good stuff, I mean, we kind of have touched on it already, but I think our offense has the firepower. But we have a legit offense. Right now, Burrow's got some serious swag. He's made some great comments throughout the week about his whole career as an open window, and it's been classic Joe. It really has been this week. So
This is the time. This is his time of year. This is when he comes out and
yeah,
shows who he is. Like this is what he did in 2020 not 2020, in 2019 with LSU. It's what he did last year. He
yeah,
really he missed out in 2020. Like who knows what that Bengals team would have turned out to be, because they were really really starting to figure it out with no talent there, or almost no talent there in 2020 when he got hurt. They were about to beat the NFC East champs. Like they were dealing, and then Burrow goes down, and now this time, January, February comes around, December comes around. This is Burrow's time to shine. This is
yeah.
what
No,
he
this is
lives
who he
what he
is.
lives
Listen,
for.
this is when you talk about someone being clutch and having it. This is what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, not a
Okay,
question.
it's something. It's not coached. It's not. You either have it or you don't, and that's the
Sure.
gift that the greats have. Mahomes has it. Josh Allen has it. Burrow has it. And you go back, Peyton Manning, Brady, go through them all. The AFC is going to be really exciting for the next decade when you think about that trio of quarterbacks constantly playing one another. It's going to be really exciting. And Pickett showed promise this year. He really did. He progressed. Our division, the Ravens are going to be the odd man out if they don't sign Lamar. They won't have, because you're going to have Watson. So it really is interesting the way things are shaping up. But
Also,
obviously, we've got Max Sherper who's going to be stepping in for Kappa this week. And we picked him up mid-season for depth,
they like him. That
but he
they like
played.
him.
Yeah, he has only played like 30 snaps, but he's looked good. This guy's got a lot of games under his belt, and he's been in the system now for a half a season. So I expect that he's gonna fill in nicely. I'm
Yeah,
that's my hope.
sure. I mean, I would hope that just keeping the inside pressure to a minimum. Baltimore has a couple of young guys that they've drafted in recent years. I wish Baltimore has like three guys that were on my board for the Bengals that were on just like three techs playing on the inside that I wanted the Bengals to draft, because that inside pass rushing spot has never been filled, and seems like it'll never be filled with the Bengals. But they have like three guys that I loved. They took Travis Jones from UConn, and he's getting some more playing time. They have a lot of guys that can get inside pressure. So that's a little concerning, even if Kappa was playing, and now that he's not, that's probably where Baltimore's strength is on defense, is they're going to be able to get to Joe Burrow. But we saw it didn't really matter much with the way Joe Burrow was evading some of that pressure. But he had his like worst game probably of the season. He didn't look good at all.
No, he didn't, and that makes me feel good. I'm going to tell you that
Sure.
because I always compare stuff to golf. When I have a great round, I really worry the next round. So like when I'm in a 2-day golf tournament and I played really, really good in the first round, I come out and I almost have to hyper focus to not screw up because the same golfer doesn't come out 2 days in a row. Now I know it's more exaggerated because I'm just an amateur nothing golfer, but each day is a new day. So the fact that I can't imagine he had 2 days like that, 2 games in a row like that. And the other thing is, I really think this was just a generic game plan. I think part of it was they didn't show everything. And I think, he came out with a vanilla play and he audibled to a vanilla play. It was just, a lot of it was scheme and lack thereof. So I think this week I'm counting on also Zach and Lou and Brian Callahan to really scheme up a good plan. Get the ball out of Burrow's hands quickly. Let's get rid of this pass rush. Set up some stuff that gives him more time and gets the play going early. And on defense, I think Lou saved some really nice gems up. I'm hoping we should be able to force some turnovers. Just like we did last week.
That's going to be the key. They got a couple of fluky turnovers. They picked up a fumble in the end zone. That's not really going to carry over it's really hard to do that back-to-back weeks against the same team. But if they can just force a couple turnovers, if not, they're going to be playing with a lot of long fields and probably going to be settling for a lot of field goals, which, like you said earlier, opens up a chance for pass interference penalty. Oh, here comes Justin Tucker. Oh, fuck, we're in overtime now. What the fuck happened? Turnovers will stop that because if the Bengals get in short fields, that's when they're really, really good, which is awesome because they were terrible in short fields last year. And they've kind of flipped the switch because they're more dynamic on offense this year and they can do a lot of different things, which is the opposite of what they were last year. Like they're a real offense this year and they weren't a real offense last year. So forcing turnovers is going to be the key, or at least, keeping Baltimore on their own side of the field, because if Baltimore changes this game into like a field position game, then that really extends this game a lot longer than everyone would like for it.
Yeah, like I said, we need to avoid the ugly AFC North 16-13 game. We need to avoid this game.
Yeah.
We need to put up 24, 28 points on this team and because I don't think they can score more than I just don't see them scoring that many points. So
and on the complete flip side, if the Bengals start turning the ball over, a couple of strip sacks, maybe an interception. I know Burrow's done a great job of keeping the ball with the team or with the offense and not turning it over. Hopefully that continues. If it doesn't, you give Anthony Brown a short field, automatic 3 points, maybe even, you get a pass interference penalty.
Right.
And oh shit, it's 1st and goal, and Baltimore just took the lead. So winning the turnover battle is probably more key than ever in this matchup, I would say.
Yeah, that and avoiding the stupid penalties. When the trainer comes out, don't push him out of the way. Just don't. Baltimore has this way of trying to get you to be chippy, so you got to avoid that. Do not get into a street fight with these guys. It's that simple. In a boxing terms, you don't want to sit there beyond the ropes and exchanging inside shots. We want to be the guy dancing around doing the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dopes. That's what we want. We want to play that kind of game, control the tempo. So that's where we're at. Well, you know what? With that, give us your prediction.
24-13 Bengals.
Okay, I had 27-17 or 27-13 myself. So I had us being up comfortably. like I said, we need to put this thing away. And I'm hoping with the 27-13 that we just give up a cheap score at the end, that it's like, 24-6, going at exiting the third quarter. But yeah, this is a game. We don't want to get guys hurt. If we can get ahead quickly, we can start, pulling some guys late in the game.
I don't know. I'm not thinking that too far ahead.
But well, I think the reason Cap is not even thinking about playing this week, and they pulled the plug this early, is they want him back for Buffalo. That's the game. I mean, everybody wants to see it. I think the NFL wants it. I think the NFL wants Cincinnati to win this game. They've made sure the game was in Buffalo, but I don't think they want to deny everybody. For once, how many times when they're doing the scheduling does the league say, we need the last Monday night game to be this great, meaningful game? And every year we wind up with things changing. Like they didn't put the Rams in it this year, but the Rams were in 5 games at the end of the year, and the NFL was locked into 4 of them. Believe me, they didn't want that. But they finally picked the game that was the most meaningful game that week for the close of the Monday night. And obviously, the DeMar situation happened. So they were robbed of that. They finally had the right game, and it didn't happen. So I think that everybody wants to see it. The ratings on it would be unbelievable. I got to tell you, when the Bengals, I'm going to say it, when the Bengals and Bills meet in the divisional round, the ratings of that game are going to be huge. And that's going to be, if there's a nighttime game, that's going to be flexed into that spot. That's just my thinking. Not the whoever wins at the Jacksonville Charger game and goes to Kansas City. That's not going to be the marquee game in the AFC.
I think the Jaguars are going to win, but if the Chargers beat them, I would pick the Chargers the next week against the Chiefs. That would be my
Chargers.
My
the Chargers are a tougher matchup, but I love the story going on in Jacksonville. So I know on Twitter I read some things where they didn't know how to take the Jacksonville one. I was like, why wouldn't you be happy for them? And this is a franchise that has struggled, coming off the whole Urban Meyer thing last year, and at least they didn't ruin Trevor Lawrence, and it's all good. So all right, well, we're gonna wrap things up. Like I said, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. Check out Jake Circus at his podcast, and we'll be back with the recap. Hopefully, Jake, you might be available. Join Heath and I on Sunday night. I'll keep you in the loop. I know it's always fluid. We'll do a recap right after the show, and let's go playoff football, guys. Hoot, everybody. Take care.